The Caribbean is one of the world's most beautiful regions, with breathtaking landscapes, ecosystems, and people that represent rich diversity and openness. But it is precisely this geography that makes our region extremely vulnerable to natural disasters. The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS countries, are some of the smallest in the region. And given the geographic position of this arc of islands, separating the Atlantic from the Caribbean Sea, our countries are some of the most exposed to storms. The Caribbean is also no stranger to volcanoes and earthquakes, thanks to the interaction of one of the smallest, yet one of the most complex crustal plates on the planet. In the 1990s, on average, 3 to 4 tropical storms or hurricanes annually affected the Caribbean. However, since 2000, this activity has intensified fourfold. Depending on the lay of the land, sometimes when it rains, water runs down the steep slopes into guts, gullies, or ravines, causing landslides, road breakaways, and major damage to buildings perched on these slopes. In other cases, the water will run down and settle in the foothills, ultimately causing flooding. In most islands, settlements are located along the coast, and this magnifies their vulnerability as, in the event of a hurricane, storm surges and high winds cause more flooding and damage to infrastructure. Inadequate drainage and poorly planned settlements compound the challenges to which many islands are naturally exposed. The consequences of natural disasters for economic activities, property, human welfare, and natural resources can be devastating. In the Caribbean, hurricanes and related events like floods and landslides have greatly affected the productive sectors of the economy, such as agriculture and tourism, and had a particularly devastating impact on the poor, low-income communities. And climate change is making matters worse. As the sea level rises, magnifying the impact of storm surge and waves on coastal areas, protective ecosystems like coral reefs and mangroves are being weakened by increased sea surface temperatures and changes in salinity. As we see extreme weather events occurring more frequently, OECS countries are facing situations in which scarce resources that should be used for development have to be diverted to relief and reconstruction following disasters, which is having a very negative impact on economic growth throughout the region.
It has been a national problem in terms of its cost to the GDP. There has been damage, for example, to our electrical supplies. There has also been damage to the roads and other infrastructure, school, health facilities, and so it affects people in a very, very real way, apart from the direct economic cost.
Since OECS countries are small open economies which are heavily dependent on tourism, it is important to mention that disasters negatively impact the foreign exchange earning capacity of a country at a time when extra resources are needed to finance imports of food, energy, and input for the agricultural and manufacturing sectors. But what of low-income families and communities where life under normal circumstances is already a challenge?
The first person to move was this individual here, because the water came into his house, burst through the back door and pushed everything out into the street.
Hurricane Omar, and so the winds are coming from the west, and this bar and restaurant here where we are located, the roof from it, the entire roof lifted up and was blown over all these big trees.
I literally saw the whole roof just take off in the air like a sheet of plywood. and went sailing.
The pond, so they left the eastern door open, but there was so much water that the eastern side of the pond, the water came through the house, all through the house, by the beds, all about.
I had some parrots, I had some monkeys, and everybody get drunk.
Ponds get real rough and the sea broke the little barrier that we have out there. The sea broke the barrier and it comes in and filled up the pond. And the pond get rough, just like the sea.
The relation between socio-economic conditions and the impact of natural disasters can be expressed in this way. Due to economic constraints, the poor are forced to live in precarious homes, often made of weak materials, on the least valued plots of land. They build or farm on steep hillsides, on floodplains, in fragile ecosystems, watersheds, and in other inappropriate areas. These situations are often aggravated by deforestation, as well as by inadequate management of rainwater and waste, which lead to associated health risks. In short, poverty is a central component of vulnerability. By comparison, the homes of the upper and middle classes are better constructed, built with hardier materials on more stable terrain, and their residents enjoy better services. In the event of a disaster, they have more resources with which to rebound from disasters. Traditionally, disaster management has focused nearly exclusively on actions that can be taken immediately prior to, during, or shortly after a disaster event to reduce economic damage and loss of life. It has also often been seen as the sole responsibility of governments. In recent years, this traditional disaster management approach has been evolving slowly to include natural risk reduction and management, in addition to preparedness, response, and recovery planning and management. This holistic approach is becoming an integral part of economic planning and policy making. Disaster risk reduction and management is fundamentally an issue of development. The location of a housing development, how it is constructed, and how land use affects the natural environment are all factors that contribute significantly to the damage inflicted during a hazard event. Understanding these circumstances, the OECS is giving special attention to sectoral planning and resource allocation, specifically to reduce the vulnerability of low-income communities. This is being reinforced at the regional level with the establishment of the Strategy and Results Framework for Comprehensive Disaster Management in the Caribbean, CDM, and the establishment of the Disaster Mitigation Facility for the Caribbean, DMFC, within the Caribbean Development Bank, including support for strengthened building standards and enforcement mechanisms, and assistance to member countries with the development of national-level risk management policies and plans.
The OECS, wants to take the approach that, the people are the first responders, really. They are the ones that are directly impacted. The communities are the ones that respond first. They have to have some capacity to deal with, the immediate impacts of disasters. And also, given that fact, they are the ones that have to be involved in planning to mitigate against disasters.
Okay, there's already a community group in place. Yeah. And so what we're going to do is look at some of the additional roles that we would like to see the group undertake.
In order to assist low-income communities to increase their resilience to disasters, the OECS is promoting an 8-phase methodology. This methodology guides the community through a process which begins with the formation of a local disaster committee through the identification and mapping of hazards. This is followed by risk assessment, in which the community assesses the risk posed by the various hazards, and based on this assessment, undertake the preparation of a risk reduction plan. This plan includes the element of risk mitigation, which is designed to reduce the impacts of the hazard event on the community. The final 3 phases deal with the preparation of a local disaster preparedness plan, designed to assist the community in undertaking a formal and structured approach in preparing for disaster events. This plan identifies the various issues to be addressed and outlines procedures for undertaking the identified actions. Phase 7 deals with monitoring and evaluation and is designed to examine the progress being made in the implementation of the proposed activities. Where problems are encountered, alternatives are developed to address these in order to meet established deadlines. The final phase looks at establishing a system for the maintenance or sustainability of the proposed activities and plans. It examines issues such as having in place personnel capable of replacing individuals who may, for various reasons, be unable to continue in the post to which they were elected. Other areas addressed include financing and coordination with public and private sector entities. It is envisaged by the OECS that by adopting this methodology, low-income communities will enhance their capacity to prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters.
I know that the community in Sandy Ground, their perceived risk is the effect of the pond on the community as it pertains to flooding, even from the ability to use the septics, not being able to flush their toilets and different things because of the pond. We are quite aware that in the event of an emergency or disaster, the emergency responders may not be able to get into the communities right away. So here is an opportunity for us to enable the community members to know what it is they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, so that they're better prepared. Okay, you have a structure. How can I retrofit this building to make it more resilient? If not for hurricanes, because in Anguilla, our structures are mainly concrete, roof, everything. So looking at earthquakes, how exactly it is you're supposed to retrofit your building to be able to withstand that? Or is it that we're using correct materials in terms of even fire hazards?
Our governments recognize that if sustainable development is to be achieved in the region, a multi-level integrated approach is required. Disaster risk reduction and management is everyone's responsibility.